Hello, everyone. Stephen Wicks here, founder of BlackBusinessList.com and with BBLTV. This is the BBLTV Money Show. And we have with us today Mr. Ron Garnett, as usual. And we're going to be talking about all things finance, all things business. So stay tuned. We'll be right back and share with us today as we talk about money. And we're back. This is the BBLTV Money Show, and we have with us Mr. Ron Garnett of Garnett and Associates. Mr. Garnett, how you doing today?
I'm fine, Stephen. How about you?
Doing great. Today is August the 11th, and folks, this is Black Business Month.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I guess some folks came and they created Black Business Month. They want to put a focus on black-owned businesses. Of course, we do that 24/7. And now is a good time, I guess, to go ahead and put you a plan together and figure out how you're going to spend some money with some black-owned businesses. Do it this month. If you haven't done it last month, this is a good month to try to get your mind right and say, I'm going to spend some money with a black-owned business. Be intentional about it. So I guess that's a good thing.
That's true.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Ron,
yes,
you've created a pretty unique platform to get folks some money, right?
Well, in a way, what it is, it's a platform where we don't tell anybody no about what nobody can't fund, like a bank. If you have gone to a bank or applied for a credit card or anything such as that, you will get a decline. Then you will get a letter in the mail saying about all of the different federal programs, about rights, why we turned you down, so forth and so on. Well, what we've done is we will tell you, yes, you qualify for X amount of dollars. No, you don't get the money right now because of X, Y, and Z, and help you prepare a road to funding, a road to success, so to speak, where we will say, okay, you can't get the money because you have this collection. You got this late payment. Your credit card balances are too high. You don't have trade lines, so forth and so on. You correct these issues, then we will look toward funding you. So we always give you a pathway to get money in most cases. Now, how long it would take, it depends on the issues that you have. We have, to my company I work with, have over 250, funders. And what we do is kind of unique in that with that many funders, with unsecured money, we're talking about unsecured loans, that the banks can spread the risk. So that if you go into a bank, ask for unsecured signature loan, you'll get turned down, probably 99.9% of the time. But if they do give you some money for anything, it might be a minuscule amount because the bank's taking a risk on you. I don't think they do signature loans anyway. You might get some collateral, whatever. But with this program, you may have banks who might spread the risk, so to speak. So instead of getting 20,000, you might get 75,000, with maybe 3 or 4 different banks giving you different amounts of money. So you get a total amount of money rather than maybe the 15 or 20,000 that one bank might give you. So
Right.
that's why you get more money for your project, so to speak. And what is must be emphasized is that these are the loans that are, in the bank's opinion, high risk, because
Okay.
what they're saying is, Stephen Wicks, for example, is saying, lend me some money. They don't know Stephen Wicks, just the name on the application.
Right.
And Stephen Wicks says, I'm going to use this to build up my business, Black Business List, TV, and expand and whatever. And they might say, well, Stephen Wicks might take the money and decide, hey, that's a carnival in Rio. I want to party. I want to party
Go to
with
Carnival.
and I'm going to stay down in Brazil as long as I can. And they said, well, how are we going to get our money back if he doesn't pay us? So that's why it's a
Right.
high risk loan, which is why you have higher interest rates than a bank, not appreciably higher, not super high, but higher because of the risk involved. But on the other hand, if Stephen Wicks says, I want to do this, and they say, well, we want everything you have. We want your house, we want your car, we want your bank account, we want your 401k, we want everything you got, and tie that up.
Yeah.
So if you go to Rio, then we got
Collateral.
we've got collateral. These are uncollateralized loans. These are signature loans based on how we view the risk in giving Stephen Wicks or John Doe or whomever a certain amount of money. And we are able to get the clients more money because we have banks who are working together who are willing to spread the risk among themselves so that nobody is carrying all the weight alone.
So, what is some of the common? I know that your program isn't 100% successful either, right?
No, nothing can 100% successful, though.
Exactly. So, what are some of the common roadblocks that you're finding that people are having as they? Well, first, let's talk about the common roadblocks that people have in general when they go to a bank and they're trying to get a loan for their business. A lot of people go in with some misconceptions. They think one thing, but it's actually something else. Can you explain to people when they want access to capital, what do they have to have in place if they get it from their bank?
Well, first of all, you have to go to a bank that's willing to give you a loan, a small business loan. Uh, as we stated before, a small business under SBA standards is generally 100 to 200 employees, $2 million in gross receipts for a couple of years. That's what they're looking for. If you're an entrepreneur, it's just you walking in yourself and saying, well, I want to start a business, and it's just you. You're a micro enterprise looking for a micro enterprise loan rather than a small business loan. And if they don't do micro enterprise loans, you're walking in asking for something that's not available to you. It's like walking into a steakhouse and asking for, some unusual seafood dish that's on the served somewhere. That's not on our menu. You have to make sure that you are on the menu. That is something that they actually service. And some banks do have micro loan programs, but remember, they are all collateralized, so that you got some kind of collateral. So if you want to borrow $50,000, you have to have $50,000 worth of something collateral to back the loan.
Yes.
So that's one misconception. Another misconception is that people really don't run their credit, use their credit, get a real good credit profile before they apply for funding. A number of people will have things on their credit report that they don't know about, that's wrong or whatever, but a underwriter will find it and look at it. Now, what you should do is at least deal with that before you apply for funding. Because here's the way credit reports work in my experience. Credit scores are based on consistent paying. Any kind, it's a mathematical algorithm, a formula. So if you do something that is unusual, it triggers a downturn in your credit report. I had a experience when I first started doing this. A client had something on their credit report that was a mistake. They had put in a hospital bill.
Mm-hmm.
So by coincidence, the person had the same name as my client. But when we looked at it, it was a different social security number, different date of birth or something. So we got it removed. The next month, credit report dropped because you had unusual activity.
Mm.
After that, it went back up because it was removed, but it took 60 days for it to be reflected.
So you got to keep monitoring your credit as well.
So you have to look at that and try and clean that up. Another thing with unsecured funding is that the banks are going to want to see if you've ever paid anybody before. You got a good credit score, but you have no history of ever paying anybody any money. You got it because you don't have any credit. Because you don't, and that's something that they say, well, look at it this way. If somebody is in prison,
mm-hmm.
they don't have any credit problems because they're locked up. You get out, you may have a great credit score, but you don't have any history of paying anybody, what they call trade lines. So you should have at least 2 or 3 instances where you can show over a period of a few months you have paid someone for something. You could go to and borrow $300 or $400 from one of these places and pay it back. If they report to the credit bureau, that improves your trade lines because you can say, I paid this money back. You could use credit cards or whatever. Now, one thing that people will do or try to do, they used to, is where you become an authorized user. Say you can have a friend who has a credit card or whatever that's being paid. At one time, you could have yourself listed as authorized user and you would piggyback on that. That's a red flag because they figure underwriters try to game the system. So that disqualifies you because it's like, well, you don't really have any credit. You're trying to game the system. And so you are untrustworthy because remember, this is unsecured money.
Okay.
They got to find you and get money from you. So you really have to have a system, a plan in place when you go apply for this money. And it's not major things, but if you are, say, employed by someone, you got to have your W-2 forms, which should be easy to get. If you are an independent contractor or self-employed, you got to have income tax records. because your income is determined by what you tell the IRS you make. So if you are in business and you maneuver the system, so you say, well, I didn't make any money, so I don't have to pay any taxes. When you go apply for funding, the banks are going to say, the funders are going to say, you didn't make any money. How are you going to pay us back? And you said you didn't make any money. You said you made $10,000. Well, how are you going to pay back a $50,000 loan on a $10,000 salary? And you said, well, no. I got all this money out here. That was just a deduction. And the banks are going to say, that's not what you said. That's not what you said. You said you made $10,000. That's what we're going with.
Well, I like the fact that I don't think before we met, I really considered the fact that maybe you should go speak to a broker like yourself before you actually go out and try to get funding, because you're going to give them the absolute honest to goodness truth of what they need to have if they're going to get funded. And your job is to get them there so that both them, and your business can be successful. So it's about having that knowledge well ahead of when you're in crisis mode, because many people try to get money when they're in crisis mode, and that's when it's going to be almost impossible to get. So you should try to think ahead if you're going to be in business, to reach out to somebody like Mr. Ron and get a strategy together for how you're going to get access to capital before you start your business, or before you get way down the road and now you're in crisis mode, because you have to have the money. You got to make the payroll. You got to pay the rent. You got to pay the vendors, all that type of thing, stuff. So, yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Well, actually, I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to do a commercial break, and keep that thought, because I know it's good. I know you got something good to say about that. But we're going to go to commercial break, and we'll be right back with Mr. Ron Garnett of CashToFund.net.
Okay.
Cash to Fund can help you get the cash you need. We provide up to $400,000 in unsecured funding for business or personal use. We have relationships with over 250 lenders nationwide. Through the use of our proprietary software, we are able to secure over 80% more funding for our clients. We help clients obtain funding for real estate investment, business startups, down payment assistance, working capital, medical, legal, education, funeral expenses, and more. We also provide 100% financing on fix and flips if you can qualify. We do not offer credit cards or lines of credit, which can later be revoked. Our loans are funded solely in cash to our borrowers in 5 to 7 days. There are no prepayment penalties and no collateral requirement. Leverage our expertise to obtain fast approvals. No upfront costs and affordable payments, with cash going straight to your checking. So what are you waiting for? Let Cash to Fund make that next deposit to help with your funding needs. Visit us online at CashToFund.net or call 706-513-4703 to start your funding today.
All right, we're back. We're with Mr. Ron Garnett of Garnett and Associates, and he was getting ready right before we went to commercial break, drop a bomb. So I know you had something good to say.
Okay. Well, what I'm just going to follow up what you were saying is that the best time to apply for funding is not when you need it or when you're desperate. Because if you're desperate, you're in some sort of a financial situation. People are very reluctant to fund you with uncollateralized loans when you're desperate because it just makes sense. They think just the way you think. If a friend comes to you and says, I lost my job, I'm desperate, I need to pay my rent, I need to pay my car, to keep my house and my car, I need you to lend me $5,000. Your friend just told you they're unemployed. Do you give them the $5,000 as a loan? Or do you say, well, I'm going to need my $5,000 to pay my rent, to keep my car later on? Do you ask your friend, how are you going to pay me back? Because what I'm giving you is a stopgap thing.
Okay.
You don't really have any plan to pay me back. So banks are in the business of loaning money and being paid back. That's their business. Even banks with collateral don't want your collateral. They don't really want it because it's just nothing to them. They want to get paid back with interest. That's how they make their money. They don't make their money by getting collateral. And with unsecured funding, you don't make any money by throwing money away or giving it to somebody who's going to be out of business in 2 or 3 months. So the best time to apply is when you're not desperate. And a lot of businesses, small micro enterprises, for example, when COVID hit, I think the statistics show that they had enough money to last like 28, 29 days. So in some instances, you were in jobs where the government shut you down. If you had a barber shop or a beauty salon, the governor or the mayor came and said, you can't work anymore. You got to close your doors for an undetermined period of time. And some people were able to go through the bureaucratic process of getting PPP loans or emergency disaster relief loans, but those require documentation. Those require, certain formal, go through the bureaucratic requirements. And some people didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
So some people went out of business because they didn't know how to do it. And with the PPP loans, if you didn't have a good relationship with a bank or funding institution, you didn't get it anyway. And the emergency disaster relief loan, you had to apply for it and go through the process and get the money. But remember, I said 28, 29 days of money.
Yeah.
You apply for funding and you get it in 90 days. What good to do? You out of business already. You're out of business.
So I think what people need to understand is you need to get access to capital now, not when you need it, but now. It's almost like the insurance business. You get the lower rates and the best deals when you're healthy, right?
Right.
When you're young and healthy. Chances are you're not going to need the insurance. That's why you get the better deal.
Correct.
You get it way well ahead when you anticipate that you're going to need it. And it's the same thing with access to capital. Don't wait to get the credit line. because during the course of business, things are going to happen, and you might be in a position where you actually need it now. And so it's much easier to get that money and get that access uh, access to capital way when you're look the best. When you don't need it, you might have money in the bank, and that is going to be the best time for you to actually get access to the capital. So that's what we want to impart upon everybody today.
And
Reach out to Mr. Ron and have the conversation, and let's see how he can give you access to this capital now.
And you will get a better interest rate too. I mean, and better terms, as you said, with insurance. And you'll get more money probably because you are better risk. It's all a balancing act of what is the risk involved in giving you or loaning you that money in the expectation that you're going to get the money back. But that's what you got to look at. Now, no, we are not 100% successful. We will give you a pathway to get funding. Now, a lot of people, especially African Americans who are not seeped in business, like some people are third and fourth and fifth generation no business people, and they understand this. Funding is an ongoing process. It's not a one-shot deal. Oh, I got a loan. No, it's a long-term deal. I mean, you just don't want to get a one loan. You want to get money for a period of time.
Ongoing.
Where you want to be able to have a relationship with somebody who can fund you throughout your business life, because you're going to need money for something. If you get money and you get a contract, you're going to need money to fulfill the contract. You got to hire personnel. You got to do other things. So you want to have somewhere to go. And you got to take a long-term approach rather than a short-term approach. And that is, very important. And one thing, that I always emphasize is you need to have a good idea of how much money you need.
Okay.
What you're going to do with it and make it work for you. Don't just pull something out the air and say, well, this is what I want. It should be in relationship to what you're doing and how you can make that money functional and grow for you. It's a tool to make
well,
it good.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm glad you said that. I'm going to use that as a segue and an opportunity to tell everybody that Michelle Perkins of Black Business List is actually working on a program where we will actually take a business owner through the process of creating a business plan. We've got a partnership with the Live Plan, and we're putting together a program that's going to really do exactly what you're talking about. It'll get somebody really ready to have the conversation with you about what they're trying to do, how much money they need to do it, and really have a strategy in terms of getting access to the capital.
Well, that's very important because, we mentioned on previous shows, getting enough money to get yourself in trouble. That is where you're undercapitalized, where you can, if you need $30,000, you got 10, and you hope you can make the other 20 up somewhere. Or what's worse, much, much worse, is you think you need 10, but you really need 30. You don't know until you actually start your business and say, I don't have enough money to run this thing.
Right.
And some people will just start off thinking that, well, I need X amount of dollars, and they just come with the figure. And I will ask people sometimes, well, how'd you get that figure? I don't know. It sounded good. That's what I figured I needed. Well, I'll say, how do you figure that? And you start asking them questions, and they will say, I never thought about that. I didn't think about this. I didn't think about that. And when you don't think about it, it costs you more money. So this is a serious process. This is something that you need to think about, because if you're starting a business, whether it's a full-time business or a part-time business, it's a serious endeavor that affects not only you, but your family and people around you and whatever.
Yes.
And if, as I said, I had a very good friend of mine who we were talking about this on a YouTube show, and she was saying that her ex-husband wanted to come to her and start a business.
Okay.
And she knew from being married to this guy doesn't have the skills to run no business. So why? And she said she didn't handle it the best way, but she had to point out to him, because she was an entrepreneur. She has a business. And she said, if you're going to run a business, you got to do this and this and this and this. And she knew about it because her mother and her aunt had a business together.
Okay.
And so she grew up in a business atmosphere. So she knew what required for a business. And she just told her ex-husband, I don't know if that's why ex now, but they got divorced because she didn't handle it. Once she started pointing out to him what was necessary to run a business, and she said, you just don't have those skills. You're not dedicated enough. You don't have the skills enough to run a business. And apparently he didn't start the business, but he didn't really like it. And she says that I didn't handle it in the best way. But instead of him wasting a whole lot of money and time, she had to tell him that. Yeah. And the first thing you got to do is look in the mirror. Are you going to put the time into it to, start the business or run the business? Are you going to put the time into it? We talk about what I know. I wasn't born knowing this. I bought books. I did webinars. I did seminars. I studied. And I went down some dark alleys and hit dead end walls and said, I'm going the wrong way. I got to turn around. And because this does not work. And this isn't working. And so a lot of what I'm telling you is the benefit of my stubbing my toe and shooting myself in the foot and not listening to what I should have listened to, the warning signs. So, and so that's what I'm trying to impart. I told you about this. Like this Sunday, I'm doing a class, like a master class in funding on Sunday. I think at 6:00. I think you sent the link out to the Black Business List. We're not charging anything. Well, we're trying to make it interactive so that if people want to listen to me talk for a little bit, give you some basics, and have some misconceptions, taken out, and we have questions and answers, and I'll try to do the best I can for that about an hour or so, that you can sign up, and we'll try and clear some things up, because a lot of people will tell you things that aren't true. Now, one thing I try to do is I'm more of a, whether it's good or bad, I'm more of a pragmatist. I try and say, well, I'm not going to deal with some of the theoretical things. I'm trying to deal, you need to do this. Like, it's kind of irritating to me when somebody talks in theoretical terms and don't tell you what to do and where to go and how to do this. So that's what we're going to try and do, is be direct and say, well, we're going to give you some basic fundamental things of what you need to do. Now, I'm a consultant. Now, a number of times people come to me and I say, well, no, don't apply for money now. You're not ready. Don't apply now. I can have a conversation with you. I said, wait a minute. No one's going to give, you might have a good credit score, but your credit cards are at 95%.
Just not the right time.
It's not the right time. I mean, you could pay them down. You could pay them down. Then I could do something for you. But you got to pay them down in such a way it's reflected on your credit report. You can't pay them down on Monday and apply for money on Friday because no one's going to know.
Process.
I mean, it's a process. If you pay them down in August, it might be October or November before all those things are dealt with and reflected on your credit, report where you can get funding. I get paid. I mean, I'll be transparent. When somebody comes in, the commercial you ran, where it said no upfront fees, I get paid when you get funded. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't, benefit my business at all if I don't think you can get funded. Right. So that's why I want to work with somebody and say, no, don't really apply now. Take care of this that I know is going to be a hurdle. Remove it away now because something else might come up, but I'm trying to deal with what is I can see that's obvious and try to get that out the way. So the class is going to be and you will have an opportunity after the class. We're going to allow people for a nominal fee to have a one-on-one consultation with me, like 30 minutes or so, where you can schedule it, and I will try and deal with you, individually, not that day, but later on in the week, in the next few weeks, depending on how many people actually ask for it, when I can fit you in, to look at what your funding issues are and try and find what's the best funding option for you, what you need to do for that option, and so forth and so on, and where to go.
So if you're watching this on the replay or live right now, the link to Ron's masterclass is in the comments section of this video. Whether you're watching it on YouTube or Facebook, you can look in the comments and click on the direct link that will take you to the registration page for his masterclass. And again, it's free of charge.
Yeah, I had not really done one before, but in being on this show with you, there were a lot of things we've dealt with that if you're in something, you assume people know, but a lot of times they don't know, and they don't understand. Like I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had a young lady called in who was had a disability. She'd get a pension.
Yes.
And so she figured she didn't qualify. I said, no, that's not true. If you get a disability pension, you get a 1099 every year. That shows how much money you made. That's proof of income, which is enough to get you funded if you get enough money for, a pension. And she said, I didn't know about that. I mean, now, I don't know if she actually applied or not, but it is something that would be useful to somebody who does, like you retired military, are you disabled or something? You might be getting $50,000 in pension, but you don't have
an income.
You don't have this income. You get a 1099, and that's income just like somebody get a W-2, and we will take that into account when trying to fund your your business and see what you qualify for.
Well, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We're with Mr. Ron Garnett. We call him the money man because when you need money, you go see Mr. Ron. Or maybe we should start calling him Dr. Ron. You know, he's got the money. All right, guys, we'll be right back after this brief commercial interlude, and we'll be right back with Mr. Ron Garnett of Garnett and Associates.
Cash to Fund can help you get the cash you need. We provide up to $400,000 in unsecured funding for business or personal use. We have relationships with over 250 lenders nationwide. Through the use of our proprietary software, we are able to secure over 80% more funding for our clients. We help clients obtain funding for real estate investment, business startups, down payment assistance, working capital, medical, legal, education, funeral expenses, and more. We also provide 100% financing on fix and flips if you can qualify. We do not offer credit cards or lines of credit, which can later be revoked. Our loans are funded solely in cash to our borrowers in 5 to 7 days. There are no prepayment penalties and no collateral requirement. Leverage our expertise to obtain fast approvals. No upfront costs and affordable payments with cash going straight to your checking. So what are you waiting for? Let Cash to Fund make that next deposit to help with your funding needs. Visit us online at cashtofund.net or call 706-513-4703 to start your funding today.
All right, guys, we're back. This is the BBLTV Money Show, and my name is Stephen Wicks. I'm the founder of BlackBusinessList.com, and I am joined by Mr. Ron Garnett, whatever you want to call him, the Money Man, Dr. Money, Master of Disaster. He is the man that can give you access to capital, and so we're very excited to have you be a part of our group. And you know what you've created with this platform, your approach to it is refreshing. It's good. There are many people that are going to benefit from you being a part of this group, and you know we're excited about the future and how this partnership really unfolds. And we thank you so much for being a part of what we're trying to build here.
Well, I'm glad to do it, and I'm not going to knock anybody, but I want to compliment you with the Black Business List, because you are providing a platform for people who are ordinary, average, everyday people. I mean, a lot of these networking groups or lists, tend to be people who talk about how much money they've made and how rich they are, and don't really relate to average, everyday business owners. So, that's refreshing to me. I mean, it really is, because you feel everybody welcome. Everybody at Black Business List, I think, can, relate to what we're trying to talk about. Because some groups, just talk about, well, if you're making $10 million, you have a better chance of going to the bank to get funding than somebody who's just starting out, or is doing it part-time, or is working on a job where you might be a corporate person.
Mm-hmm.
And you are making $50,000 to $60,000. But in 10 years, you're going to be making $50,000 to $60,000. You're not going any higher. You have reached the absolute ceiling. You got all these skills, you got all this knowledge, and you can say, well, my boss is paying me $50,000, $60,000, but he is making $300,000 or $400,000 off my efforts. Maybe I should, try and go out on my own and do for myself what I'm doing for them. But I need some money to sustain me and my family to set this business up while I reach this in this transition period. And we can do that.
Glad you said that, because many people who do take the leap, I think, make a big mistake. And like you said, they do not properly assess how much money they're going to actually need to do this, where their family doesn't suffer. As an entrepreneur, we all know that we take risks, but when we put our family's future at risk, that's a whole nother ball game. And you can really destroy a good relationship, a good marriage, over your entrepreneurial desires and aspirations if you don't have a good partnership with your wife, or vice versa, to make sure that your spouse is on board. That's critical, because that can damage many relationships. And so you have to have all of that information going in. You want to not be so in a, ecstatic cloud to where you just can only see the positives. You need to do a business plan. You need to look at worst case scenarios. You need to have a plan for access to capital so that when something comes up, you can take care of it. Give your best chance to succeed, because one of the things that can actually happen is that your family can look at you take that leap, and if they see you fail, especially if you fail soon and early, that'll give them a bad taste for entrepreneurship. They'll say, you know what, I'm gonna stick with my job, because I see what happens when somebody jumps out there. But the problem was that you just jumped out there without a parachute.
That's very true. As I stated before, when I first got into this, industry, I used to teach business plan writing. And the first lesson in a business plan is, if you're going to start a business, these people are going to start their businesses. The first thing you do is you go home and talk to your family about what you're trying to do, and explain to them in detail the financial ramifications of what you're going to do. Because if you start a business, generally it's going to take you 18 to 24 months to break even and start making money. Now, what people will make a mistake is, when they have a business plan, they don't include themselves in the business plan, such as you make the situation so that you pay yourself a salary. So you are part of the overhead of that business plan, so that if the company is not making money, you can still figure that I need this amount of money to live on. And maybe if you're making $60,000 to $70,000 a year, you might have to scale back your lifestyle, so you're living off maybe $30,000 a year. You can't take the vacation you want to. You can't have that new car. You can't buy that suit that you really want. But you got your basics covered. You got the food, clothes, shelter that you really need, and you can take care of your family.
Right.
So that when you do get to the point where you start making money, then you can reap the rewards. But it takes some time and effort. But if you have the basics covered, your mind is such that you can focus in on growing your business. If you are worried about food and paying the rent or the mortgage and taking care of the basic necessities, you may not, unless you're some kind of extraordinary superhuman being, you are not able to focus in on what you need to do on that business because it's weighing too much on your mind.
Absolutely.
So take care of that first things first. But that's part of business planning. You know, how you going to take care of your family? How you going to get paid? Because if you don't do that and you figure, well, I'm going to pull money out as I need it, you are killing your business because that money would need to go to, you know, the business is coming to you for your living expenses because you have not made yourself a fixed cost of that business.
Yes.
So that's why it's so important that when you do this business plan, like I'm glad you're doing it because a number of people, when they get money, don't know what to do with it. That's why a business plan is so important. You have to have a plan as to how this money, call this unsecured. I thought a commercial. I wrote it out myself. I didn't produce it, but I wrote it out, the information. Nobody follows you around and says, this is how you spend this money. It's put into your bank account and you manage it. It's at your discretion. We don't have any ties on what you do with it. We don't say, no, put in your business, as opposed to buying that Rolex watch. You go ahead and pay your, you know, get that computer you need rather than that watch or those shoes or that suit or that fancy car or whatever. That's your decision. We give you the money and you have to manage that money. And a business plan helps you manage that money. And remember, it's not a one-shot deal. That money should be turned into more money. And if you want expansion, once you can prepay it, you can come back for more money to expand it because there is no prepayment penalty. So always have a plan in place. Talk to your family. If it's going to be a downgrade in your lifestyle, get them to buy into it. You don't want to be fighting a business, 10 hours a day, and you come home beat up and tired, and you come home, your spouse is saying, I told you so. I told you so. Why didn't you ask me about this? I would have told you we couldn't do it. Why am I gotta be carrying the burden? Why am I gotta be doing this? Wow. So, it's
real.
That hurts the business too, because
absolutely.
Your mind gotta be laser focused on that business, and if you were worried about, well, doggone, I gotta face this when I go home. You're thinking about that rather than focusing on your business.
Yeah.
So you have to get someone to buy into it. And if they're your spouse and they go buy into it and say, okay, I understand what we're trying to do. We're trying to build. And, and that's what we're going to do. And you got comfort at home rather than, well, why didn't you ask me about this? I told you not to do it. So, and that's a very, very big part of being in business. Because if you got distractions at home,
you got problems.
You got problems, and business,
big trouble.
You might deal with that first. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not a family counselor or a marriage counselor or anything like that. But I'm a money person.
Yes.
And I know that you can fumble away money if you got somebody at home who doesn't respect what you do, doesn't like what you're doing, and doesn't understand what you're doing. You are not going to be able to really focusing on what you need to do to be successful.
Not at all.
All this that might be an exception to the rule, but basically, you're gonna be in trouble.
You won't have peace in the home. Period.
No.
Well, Mr. Ron, thank you so much for your insights.
Okay.
And we got another week in the can, and we'll be back next week.
Yes, we will.
We're going to make a concerted effort to try to make sure we have as many of our members join us when we go live, because I think people are missing out on the opportunities. We've had, for a few weeks, we've had some members come on, and they were able to talk about their business. And that's out there on the internet. You know, it's there to be found. And there are things that we can do with that footage to really amplify their PR, you know, in terms of their public relations. And this is an opportunity that a lot of our members are missing. And so I'm making that commitment that we're going to really dig into that member list and really try to get them to come on and participate, because they're missing out on a lot. There's a lot of relationships that can be had from these live broadcasts. So I want to thank you for being committed and coming here and doing this every week. We really appreciate you.
All right. Thank you. And I appreciate it too. I'm hoping that people will tune in to the class, including you, Stephen, because you had the wrong day. So it's this Sunday at 6 o'clock. Yeah. And you can ask questions too. Okay.
All right. Right. So the link for Ron's masterclass is in the what do you call this area here? The comment section. Yeah. I had a brain freeze. But yeah, his link is there. It's a free masterclass. Just click it, register, and it'll be on this upcoming Sunday. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Ron.
You're welcome, and have a good one. And I will see you Sunday and Wednesday.
That's right. Okay. Take care.
Okay, you too.
All righty.